Hey, how you like me now? Good morning. Living Truth 365. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers in the audience as well as all of our mothers online. So we have a very, very special treat for you today. We have a panel of wonderful, knowledgeable, I'm not even going to call them elders because they all look beautiful up here. So I don't know where we're getting that from, but these wonderful, seasoned women up here. And we are going to learn some things today that maybe we didn't know, get some knowledge about life, about womanhood, about motherhood, whatever you guys can bring to us because life gives experiences through living life. And we only get that knowledge and that experience from living life. And you guys have lived life. Mm-hmm. And we want to learn some of those lessons before we got to go through them. Because sometimes we can get our lessons from others. So that's what we're here today. We're going to hear a discussion from these wonderful women. And let me introduce them, and then I'm going to have them tell us a little bit about themselves, a little bit about your life, your spirituality, your family, your journey in life thus far. And then we'll get into our topics. So we have Reverend Dolores Borges, Reverend Cheryl Johnson, and Dr. Josephine Sanders. And we'll go ahead and start right here with Reverend Dolores and let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Reverend Dolores Borges. I have been a minister 34 years. Wow. 34 years I've been in the ministry. I'm originally from New Jersey. I have a brother. I have, of course, mother and father. I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. And I have lived all of these years. And it's been a joy. It really has. I had my mother with me as the song was playing. I was thinking about her, and I was like, okay, don't start. But I had my mother with me until she was 103.
Oh, wow.
And even with that, and I realized that her body was tired and it was time for her to transition, I didn't want to let her. But she was my rock. So there's plenty of life. I'm just going to let the next person speak, and we'll go into the questions that you have, and we'll see where it takes us.
Okay, I'm Dr. Josephine Sanders. I'm all the way from Sardis, Mississippi.
Mm.
My childhood was humble beginnings. I have 2 children, Yolanda, my daughter, and Islan Herbert, and 2 grandchildren. My spiritual journey has been much longer than my ministerial journey. My ministerial journey is very short. I became a reverend or a minister just 5 years ago. But my journey and my story and my experiences are profound, and I will share some of them with you, which I think led me to where I am now spiritually, led me to the ministry and the things that I do. At age 75, I wanted to give myself a gift, and that gift was I had never ever wanted to be a doctor or whatever. It didn't mean anything really to me. But I'd gotten into the spiritual path, and I just thought I needed a bit of clout. Everybody around me was Reverend this and Reverend that. And I had gotten into the study of the Aramaic Bible, and I said, well, maybe I need a title beside my name. So at 75, I pursued a doctorate by 75, and I achieved that goal. That was 5 years ago, because this year I will be celebrating my 80th birthday. And I feel blessed. There have been challenges, but life has been good.
Wonderful. Well, my name is Reverend Cheryl Johnson, and I use the term reverend with great reverence because I graduated from Barbara King School of Ministry in 2002, and I still have trouble identifying as a minister because I didn't know I was going to be a minister until the day before I was ordained. I've always considered myself a counselor. When I was 12 years old, I had an experience of standing on a rock. And God spoke to me as clearly as I'm speaking to you. And God said to me, "You're going to be a counselor." And I was like, "Really, God?" And God was like, "Yeah, because, you like to observe things. You like looking at people and listening to people and getting into people's heads. But mostly you're going to need to be a counselor because you're going to have issues in your own family, which you're not prepared to deal with, but counseling will help you get through it." So, long story short, I did go to Barbara King School of Ministry. I went through the spiritual counseling program. The day before I graduated, I went to the dean and I said, "Dean, the rest of the people in my class are going to be ordained as ministers, and when they get ordained, what do I do? Do I go back to my seat? Do I stand behind? I just need to know where I need to be." And she said, "Well, Dr. Barbara has decreed that you need to be ordained with the rest of your class. You're going to be a minister." And I was like, "Say what?" I was like, that was never my plan to be a minister. She said, "Well, if you would like to go to Dr. Barbara and tell her you don't want this, you are welcome to do that." And I was like, "No, I don't think I want to do that." So I went ahead and got ordained. And I realized 22 years into this journey, because I graduated in 2002, that being a minister is being a healer and being a counselor. And everybody has a ministry. You don't have to have the title to have a ministry. So my spiritual journey began when I was 3 and made my first trip from my home in Mount Vernon, New York, with my favorite uncle on the train, and went to Birmingham, Alabama to visit my grandparents. And my great-grandmother started me on my journey. She took me to the AME church, and she also took me to 16th Street Baptist Church, where I made friends with 2 of the little girls who were massacred when they were 12 years old. But I would say the greatest influence in my life has been music. Music has always been around me. Music has always pulled me through whatever I've been going through. My parents started me on the musical journey. My mother bought me my first record. It was a 78. People don't even know what that is. And if I say it was a LP, they're not going to know that. If I say it was a record, they might know what it is. But my first record was Elvis Presley, "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog." I wore it out at 6 years old. I just thought he was the greatest living thing. Then we moved across town, and I remember coming out of my house one day and going around. We had little steps, and I went to the patio, and I heard this piano riff. It was a long riff. It was blah, 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 blah. And it turned out it was Nina Simone, who lived a block over from us. And long story short, musical influences have always been in my life. I was blessed and privileged to attend not 1, but 2 Bob Marley concerts. I also attended Marvin Gaye's concert when he came out with What's Going On, where he sang the entire album for my birthday at the Kennedy Center. So those are the type of musical influences that have been in my life. But getting back to motherhood, and I know we'll be talking more about this, I just passed a milestone birthday. I turned 75 a week ago, and was blessed with a surprise visit from my son, who took me out for the most fabulous dinner. And so I know I'm glowing because that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm really on top of this motherhood thing today because my son just showed out.
Okay.
But that's it. There'll be more to tell, but that's my story in a nutshell.
Well, thank you, ladies, for introducing yourself. And I failed to introduce myself and my moderator. So let me rewind a little bit. I'm Reverend Chantel, and I'm going to be one of your moderators. And my other moderator is
Amber Arnold, and those were some lovely introductions. I would like to add one item to each of your introductions is you are an icon. Okay? So we're going to add that to the introduction.
yes, I like that.
I do have a question. What is one label that you give yourself, and what is one label that life has placed on you?
I would say one label I place on myself is loyalty. I hold that in the highest esteem. I just think it's very important to be loyal to the things you believe in, to the people you believe in, to the goals you believe in. And I forgot the second part of your question because I'm 75.
The second part of the question is, what is a label that life has given you?
Oh, I think the label that life has given me. The first thing that comes into my head is friend. Friend. Because my friends are important to me, but more so, I think I come across as a friend, and that's important to me.
Well, thank you for being a friend.
Yes. There's a song for that.
There sure is.
I think the thing, I'll answer that by saying, if people would describe me, what words would they use to describe me? And that's how I'm going to answer that question. I think they would say I'm loving, caring, and giving person. One of my strong points, which might be also one of my weak points, is that I practice what I call humility, caring for people. And I think that's a good thing, but it's sometimes a thing that gets me in trouble. So very loving, very giving, very caring. I think that's what people would say about me, and that would be my label. I think people would look at me, and I would look at myself at this point in my life, and I would label myself as being very blessed, very strong-willed, steadfast, never giving up. I think most people would look at me and know I'm very determined. And some of my stories that I would tell later shows a person of self-determination, never giving up.
Thank you.
I would say the label that people would put on me is counselor slash friend. And I say that because as I look back over my life, and one of my friends that I grew up with reminded me, I've always been giving, quote unquote, advice or suggesting ways of doing things. That's always been a part of who I was, even as a young person. And when I was ordained or in ministerial school, I called this friend at home and told her I was going to school. And I said, "You're not surprised. I'm surprised." And she said, "Dolores, you always march to the beat of a different drummer." And I said, "What do you mean?" I'm not coming through. What do you mean by that? She said, "You never follow the crowd." She said, "We would decide we were going to the movies or whatever, and if you didn't want to see that movie, you had no problem saying, 'I'm not going,' and go off in another direction. You never had a problem being yourself. Whenever we had problems, you were always the person everybody came to for an answer or a way to handle the situation." And that, for the very first time, made me look at myself and I said, yes, that is the way I've responded to life. And so that's why I say I've I've been a counselor and a friend. But I know as a child, I wanted to be a helper. I thought I wanted to be a nurse because I wanted to help people. And as a child, my poor father, I stuck him with so many toothpicks, giving him a needle, a wipe with the alcohol and the cotton swab, and I'd stick him with the toothpick to give him a needle and take his temperature. And I laugh about, I said, he just tolerated all of that as I grew up. But my thought was I was going to be a nurse. And so before I went to nursing school, I decided, well, let me go to be well, they call them CNAs now. They call it a nurse's aide when I was growing up. I said, let me take that class, do that through the summer, just to get a feel for it. Went through the class with flying colors. Worked on the hospital floor. I was working the 3 to 11 shift. Well, I was about 3 hours in. And I found the head nurse and I told her I was going home. This was not my calling. And she said, well, you won't get paid for the 8 hours. You don't have to pay me for the time I've been here. I'm going home. So I always wanted to help. So now as I look back about going into ministry, I said it was still that same thought that carried through the whole time. I wanted to help. At that time, at that young age, I thought nursing was the way to help. I see now ministry was my calling.
So since we're on ministry, I have a question for my ministers, fellow ministers here. How do you balance the service of a ministry and the obligation that we have as women, mothers, providers? How do you balance that? And I'm asking you for myself as a young mom to young people, and also being a minister, a reverend, and being in this wanting to serve, but there's only so much time in the day. There's only so much energy I have. So how did you find a balance for that in your life?
Well, first of all, I would like to say I haven't been in the ministry very long, just as a minister, but to me, being a mother is a ministry. I was a counselor in school, in high school, and junior high school. That was a ministry. And just like Reverend Dolores said, all of my life when I look back, I've been in situations and circumstances, careers, where I was always helping other people as a teacher, as a counselor. And let me go back when I first finished college. Back in Mississippi, the only thing you could do was teach school. And of course, you want to do something different. So I went to New Jersey, up in your part of the country, and I got a job working as a research lab for the New Jersey Health Department. Really nice, cool position. But I was working in a lab running tests on animals. And it was exciting for a while, but then all of a sudden it appeared to me, I really don't like this. After you run these tests over and over and over, and then I go, the thing that I thought that I didn't want to do was the thing when I really started thinking about, what do I do? I like working with people. So I went back to teaching school. And that's when I was in California. I taught school there for 36 years. Worked as a teacher, counselor, and ministry. And all the time, I didn't realize my true ministry was, like Reverend has said, some of the reverends have said in the past, it was, I always had that driving need to help other people, to advise other people. And I thought that's my true calling. But now how to balance all of that? Balancing being a parent. Because that's, when you're a minister, I would just perceive. I haven't been a minister, like I said, that long. But motherhood itself, just balancing motherhood and all the juggling that you have to do. One, you got to prioritize. That's the key thing that you have to do in order to be successful. You got to prioritize being a mother. Most of us would be in a relationship. Perhaps you're married, or perhaps you're just in a relationship with a significant other. You have to prioritize. You have to organize, prioritize, and I think that's the key things that I would contribute to this.
I'm going to say something that I think applies in life in general. And I say this to women particularly because women have a challenge with, just by nature, wanting to help everyone, do everything, be everywhere, and what have you. God first. God first. You second. Then everything else will be in divine order. And the reason I say that, in the scripture, God tells us to, the scripture tells us to love God with all our heart, love our neighbor as ourselves. So we've got to love God first, we've got to love ourselves second, and then others. So when we place God first and then ourselves, we're starting with the right priority. And if you have God first, you're in prayer and meditation, it will be revealed to you what comes next and where the priority should be. Okay? So that's how I see balancing it. Because for the majority, I was married but divorced. So my children growing up, the majority of their life, I was a single parent. But I balanced it by, like I said, putting God first. I chose real estate as a profession because it gave me flexibility. So therefore, I was able to be at the school. I was able to be at their extracurricular activities. When I walked in the school, everybody knew who I was because I was involved. And I would say that to parents everywhere. If you have children, young children, especially school-age children, be involved. Let them know who you are and that you're going to be at that school. And if something's not right, you're there to deal with it. But balancing it is putting God first and then you second. And I know for mothers that's hard because they think of the children first, they think of this first, they think God first, you second. Because if you don't take care of you, you don't have the energy and what you need to take care of them.
Good. Yeah, building on what these two ladies have said, I think for me, the way I balance it is by setting priorities and setting boundaries and time management. One of the reasons why I was reluctant to become a minister is because of the preconceived notions we have about ministry. People find out you're a reverend, it's, you can fix me. Let me get close to you because you're closer to God, and I know if I get close to you, then I can be fixed. No, God is working with me. So, and like Reverend Dolores said, God first. You know, you have to get your priorities in order. And then if you're a mother, your children come first, always, beyond anything. So that gets into time management. It's like, how much can I do? How much am I physically capable of being able to give here? Because I got this to do, I got that to do, I got that to do, and then there's that. So time management for me has always been really important. You know, I watch people as they hustle to do things and get places, and they're always running late, and it runs in my family. I see this all the time. But it's like, that's a choice for me. That you know, you're not setting yourself enough time to get where you need to go on time. So you're running late, but everybody knows you run late, so maybe it's okay. For me, it's not. You know, I mean, but that's just me. But that's my thing, is that setting boundaries, The older I have gotten in life, the easier I have found it to say no. You know, you want me to do something? No, I can't. I can't. No, I'm sorry. I can't. No. And it just becomes easier and easier as you get older because you set your priorities. What's really important for me to accomplish here, and what's not, and what's not gets laid by the wayside because it is what it is.
Okay, the power of no. I'm working on no. I'm saying no first,
You're
and
young.
then I can
You're
decide
young.
if I can go back and say yes.
That's a
Okay.
good one.
So, question: do you think it's important to introduce your individual person to your children? I think that they only experience us as mom. Um, so, do you think it's important to introduce, you as an individual to them?
Personally, I don't think you ever have to introduce yourself. Your children are very observant. They're observing you 24/7 as long as they're awake. So they're going to know who you are. They may not see all sides of you, but I think that as they grow and evolve, they look at you differently. They need different things from you when they're an infant than they do when they're a toddler, than they do when they're an adolescent, than they do when they're a teenager. It's different. So I think your children are always looking at you as an individual. Motherhood is the greatest thing because that's the thing they get the most from. But they see you as an individual. I believe that.
Yeah, I don't think you need to just introduce yourself to your children. Your children, as you said, will see you. I think as a parent, mother, you're a model for your children. So everything you do, they are watching you anyway. So this is why it's so important for you to be a model of ethical, moral, and spiritual values. Those things that's going to make them be the person that you want them to be. You have to be very careful that you are modeling those things for your children, the things that you know, that you are the way you want to be. They will see. You don't have to tell them. They will observe, just like you said. They will know who you are. They will remember, even though you might not think. Time will go, and you might not think that your children are listening to you. But later in life, things will happen. I've had some recent experiences where things that I thought perhaps I did not do so well as a parent, or maybe values that I thought were very important for my children, I began to see and experience that, yes, they did pick up on those lessons that I was trying to model for them. I have a very interesting story I'd like to tell of being a mother. Being in a situation where I felt that I was very, very challenging. I was in an abusive situation in marriage, physically and emotionally. And I found it very difficult to do some of the things that I thought I really needed to do as a mother. Matter of fact, today, when last week, I really struggled with just showing up today because I started thinking about, gosh, what kind of mother was I in this abusive situation? And I started thinking about well, they say mothers are nurturing, mothers are patient. And I look back and a red flag came up, and I go, during those very challenging times, I probably didn't begin to feel it. Maybe I wasn't as patient as I should have been with my children, or in a situation where I could be loving and nurturing. And so I thought, did I do anything right? So I called my son, and I said to him, hey, I'm on this motherhood panel. He kind of chuckled. motherhood? And I'm like, oh, yes. So, I want you to be honest with me. What do you remember? What values or whatever did I do that you remember that I did as a mom that was helpful and benefit pieces? Mama, I just remember that you never gave up. Mm-hmm. Said we had some very difficult, challenging times, and you were impoverished. You know, needed money and stuff, but I knew you never sought, you didn't go on welfare, you never sought help from others. You did it yourself. And he says, I remember that, and it's instilled in me that, how to fight, how to be steadfast. So I got a little relief, and this is why I'm here today. Because at the time I just thought, God, why am I showing up?
It's all good.
But this is why I'm here, because I learned that my kids were watching me, and I was a model for them, even though we were in very, very challenging situations.
I agree with both of my sisters. They're watching you. Parents have a tendency to talk and say things, but children are looking at you. Is what you're saying and what you're doing congruent? Are you just saying what's supposed to be right or what you think is good for them and you're doing something different? They see the discrepancy. They notice everything. Mm-hmm. And they don't forget anything. And you cannot fool them. We think because, they're only 3 or 4 years old and you tell them something, they remember that, and then they see the discrepancy when something doesn't happen, and they'll call you on it. They will call you on it. And then, as they've said, when children grow, if you've given them the model and taught them the things, it stays with them. Mm-hmm. I visited my son not too long ago, and I told him the previous week I'd spoken at a church, and I was talking about love. And I said, I had the choir sing the song, I love myself just the way I am. And he started singing the song. 45 years old. He was a little boy when he grew up and heard that song. I said, you remember the words to that song? He said, Mom, I remember a lot of things that I was taught. So children do remember, they do listen, but most of all, they look and they see. So you do have to model. And you do have to, you're in a truth environment, you have to walk your talk. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, I can agree. Kids are always, my children, I didn't realize how much they were watching me until they would bring up certain things, and I'll be like, you noticed that? Mm-hmm. So thank you for that reminder that they are always watching us. What I want to know is, we're always giving advice to our children, and we hope, like you said, that they take it and take it in their lives. What is one piece of advice that you remember your mother giving you that you carried with you in your life?
Mm-hmm. For me, as I told you, I grew up in Mississippi and the country. And one of the things that kept us together, I grew up on a plantation. And the families, the values that they were closely knit. They supported each other. And that was the thing, because of my situation that I was in when I brought up my family. I was very concerned that my children didn't have that desire to be what I call devoted to each other as a family member, as a unity. I didn't see that because there were a lot of bickering and hostility and stuff. That you would come to one's rescue in terms of a family. Just because it was a family member, you did it. And like Mother Teresa said, even when you come to their rescue many times, even though we had been taught by my grandfather and my grandmother were my really teachers and my mother, they taught us to stick together and support each other. I didn't see that. It bothered me that I didn't think my children, I had been able to model that particular piece to them. But it was just this past week that something happened. My daughter came to my rescue after, I don't know if I've gone back to my childhood or not, whether she has to be the mother now to protect me as a child. But I had gotten myself in harm's way, the decision I made. One of my virtues, always concerned and want to care and take care of other people, it had gotten me in trouble. And that's when I learned that my daughter, not only her, but family, she got seemingly everybody together on board to help me. So now I know that my children, that I always say, I just didn't think they would come together and do anything together to support each other. Not only to support me together. Like individually they'll come to me, but to come together, my son and my daughter, that was just so important to me that they come together. And what I had taught them, seemingly, or they had learned, they didn't come and criticize me. And that's the other thing. You know, we want to help our children, we want to support our children, but we don't want to criticize them. I think they taught me as a mother. You know, I knew I made a boo-boo. They didn't tell me, oh, look, we told you so much. I said, no, not once did they say that. And my children were doing good parenting, using good parenting techniques with their mother. And I like to say to you today, Yolanda, you're here. Thank you, Yolanda. I love you, I love her, but I'm so glad to see you guys, that you are one, that you realize you are a family, and that we need to support each other. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Auntie Ado even brought the grandchildren, her children into it. So it was a family thing. I really feel blessed and good that my family will support me.
Well, my my mother was always, I think my mother was still raising me until the day she died. You know, I have always believed there is a spiritual umbilical cord between you and your mother that never gets severed, never. And I think more than the advice that she gave me, what I really got from my mother was the essence of what faith is all about. Because my mother was a very faith-filled individual. She struggled with mental illness. I'll just do a quick plug for my book. I wrote a book with a group of writers called Shaking Off the Dust, and we all contributed a chapter. And the chapter that I wrote was about growing up with my mother, who was bipolar and never on medication. So the highs and the lows were extreme, to say the least. But the constant thing I got from my mother was a sense of, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right because God tells me it's going to be all right. So I think what I got from her more so than anything else was a sense of faith and a sense of things unseen. You know, you're going to move forward even though it looks like it's chaos and terrible. You're still going to move forward. I think that's what I picked up from her more than anything else.
One of the things I think that I can remember most about my mother as a young child was, don't lie to me. Whatever you do, tell me the truth. And that stuck with my brother and I were that we were grounded in that. No matter what we did, and my brother was mischievous, but he got into a lot of things. But we wouldn't lie to her. She was like, okay, if you did something, just tell me. And if I need to defend you, I'll be there, but don't lie to me. And so we grew up with that, and my brother and I laugh about it now, uh, how as a single mother, and the reason she was a single mother, my father died just before my 4th birthday. And my mother remarried later, and he died just before my 10th birthday. So basically, there was a lot of time in those younger years, and as adolescent going into teen years, she was a single parent, but she was a strong woman. She was a strong woman, and I say that even in her family. She came out of a family of 8. She was the second oldest. But when my mother spoke, I don't know if y'all remember the commercial about E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton speak, everybody listened. When my mother spoke, everybody listened, and everybody followed accordingly. She was not the person that you wanted to go against. And then to back it up, my mother was 5'11" and a statuesque woman. She wasn't fat, she was solid, but 5'11". And when she spoke, it was like, don't want to go against her. So we learned that, and I grew up in the church, my entire family. My grandfather was the chairman of the deacon board. I had 2 uncles that were deacons. My grandmother was the superintendent of the Sunday school for 32 years. My mother was a trustee. Another uncle was a trustee. Other aunts were ushers. My mother was the president of the Sunshine Club. And I could go on and on and on. My family was in the church. I didn't know anything else other than church. So I always had a belief. I had questions that I couldn't get answered within my environment. And one of the things about me as a child, I was not a difficult child, but if something didn't make sense to me, I was going to ask a question. And if I was going to get in trouble, I was going to get in trouble because of my mouth. So I would ask questions in church and I didn't get answers. But it wasn't until I came to Atlanta and went to Hillside to the New Thought that things started to make sense and things started to come together and some of the questions that I had were answered. So I've always been faith-based, always believed that there was a way, always looked at life no matter what the challenges were because I saw my mother overcome them. And as we talked about earlier about modeling, she was the model. So.
Okay, well, I have a question for you ladies. How and when do you find time now and in your earlier years to just focus on yourself and your spirituality? What were some of the things that, you did when you got that time alone, that solitude?
Well, for me, I really started to do a deep dive into myself when I got into my 30s because I wasn't satisfied with the progress that I was making in life. I just felt like, and then I had this kid to raise. And so it's like, how am I going to balance raising this child when I'm really trying to raise myself at the same time? And I realized as I did this deep dive that I had this mental tape going through my head. I always knew that my parents loved me. I never questioned that. But there was something nagging at me, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And one day, I was thinking about this mental tape that's going through my head, and I'm like, what is this mental tape that keeps looping in my head? And I realized that what I was hearing was, whenever I accomplished anything in my life, whether it was in school, whether it was personally, whatever it was, my parents would say, that's great, Cheryl, but you can do better. And the part that stuck with me is, but you can do better. And I realized what I'm hearing is, what I feel like I'm hearing is, whatever you've done, it's good, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. You could do better. And I came to this epiphany one day and said, you know what? Maybe I'm good enough, right where I am, just like I am. Maybe I don't have to, maybe I can step off of this hamster wheel that I've been running for 30 years, trying to make my parents happy, trying to make other people happy, trying to make husbands happy, yada, yada, yada. Maybe I can get off of this hamster wheel and just be enough, just as I am. And that was the beginning of self-care for me, because I realized what was keeping me from caring for myself was buying into this mental tape of, you're not good enough. Whatever you've done, it's good, it's okay, but it's not good enough. And when I stopped that was when I was able to move forward.
Okay.
Well, I got a story, and it's some of the same, but kind of in the reverse. I had fallen off the bandwagon. I didn't like myself. I wasn't good enough. But the thing that helped me overcome those challenges when I had fallen into the gutter of life, or the valley, the deep valley of life, was my upbringing. Well, were those people, my family members, my community, who did tell me I was good, I was great. And when I fell off that wagon down in the gutter, I began to thinking, well, I want to crawl out of that and never sink there and never stay there, because I go, those people back home think I'm something, think I'm great. They think I'm better than where I have fallen. So that's what pulled me out of the deep, dark places I had fallen into. And I'm describing a period of time in my life from like 20 to probably 45. And what happened to me is that I did find my true self, begin to find myself. I discovered science of mind. Part of my story is your story. I grew up in the church. Every time the church door opened, I was there. I was all over the place representing. I was the child that represented the missionaries, the Bible school, the whatever. I was there representing it for the church, the community, because my people were very involved in the church. But like you, some of the messages, because it was traditional, it was puzzling to me, confusing to me, some of the things they said and taught. And I came into Science of Mind, and I began this whole new experience. I started hearing things, and I was just had all kinds of aha moments about spirituality. Then later I came to Hillside. Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, and the teachings with Reverend Richard. He studied under Ernest Holmes, and I came later to Hillside. Something was missing there, and what was missing was the Bible. You know, spiritual laws and how to take care of yourself, all that's good. But the Bible was missing. And I heard Dr. Rocco Erico speak. And I go, oh my God, well, this is it. So I really got into that. I started studying with Dr. Rocco, and I've been studying with Dr. Rocco now, I don't know how many years. But it was the thing that changed my life. It got me going forward, keep me going forward. I'm still involved with this. You know, even in my late age now, my family and people around me ask me, why do you do what you do? And I hope I'm addressing your question, what keeps me going? The thing that keeps me going is that I know the things that I am doing in my life now, which I do. I'm teacher of the Aramaic Bible class for Hillside. I do holistic health and wellness retreats in my home. I know that's my calling. I know that now in my life that I am fulfilling my purpose for being. And the reason why I know that when I do it, although sometimes I really get stressed out from doing it, I'm at peace doing those things. If I could just do that, I'd be at peace all of my life. But then, of course, life sets in and I have to deal with it. But it's knowing your purpose for being, for getting yourself in a position where you're fulfilling your purpose for being is the greatest and most rewarding feeling you can have. You will find time for yourself. Now, I have to balance. I'm working on balancing so that I've got some social time for myself and got some personal time for pampering myself and keeping my physical body going. But that's what keeps me going.
Thank you.
As I said, I had been in the church all my life. And when I first discovered Hillside, I would do 11 o'clock Baptist church, 3 o'clock Hillside. Until one day I said, this is crazy. Yeah, I did. Twice on I would go to the Baptist church and then I would go to Hillside for a 3 o'clock service. And then one day I said to myself, this is crazy. Hillside is where I need to be. This is the teaching. This is making sense to me. All that I've learned in the Bible, because I'm Bible based, I can quote you some scripture, but this is how this applies in my life. And then one day we had a author, Terry Cole Whitaker, come to Hillside, and the title of her book is "What You Think of Me Is None of My Business." Well, when I read that book, I was set free. What you think of me is none of my business. That's on you. I didn't worry about approval from anyone, even my mother, when it came to that decision, because that's why I was going flipping, flopping, because I couldn't tell her I left the Baptist church, But I was like, I'm okay with my decisions, with my thought, and what you think about it is none of my business. You've got a problem, guess what? That problem resides in your head, in your consciousness, you work on it. I'm going on about my business and doing the things that I know are working for me. And so much of what we do, and we were conditioned that way. Well, what are people going to say? I don't care. I love you and I respect your right to have an opinion, but it has no bearing on who I am. And once you know and start to really study and realize you are a child of God and God loves you, and all of these other things are wonderful, but the real truth of the matter is when you get to know and understand who you are, it doesn't move you. And you don't waste your energy with those kind of things that pull and detract that energy from taking care of yourself. Because a lot of our time is spent thinking about what others are thinking, what they think, what they're going to say. Let it all go. It's only hindering you. The only thing that affects your life is what's you got going on up here. What are your thoughts about you? What are your thoughts about what you're doing? That's what makes a difference in your life.
I don't care what you think about me. Okay. Easier said than done, right? Easier said than done.
It's easier.
Easier?
It gets
okay.
easier.
Okay.
As you get older,
Absolutely.
it gets easier.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the no, right?
Right.
We're going to work
Say
on
no
the
first.
no.
Right.
Say no first.
No.
Because people always ask, you always got your mind right. You know what direction. I go, at 80, I better know what direction I'm going to go. I need to know what's important. I need to figure it out by my values, ethical, moral,
Right.
what I represent, how I want to live my life.
Yes.
Right.
I don't have to think about right now. I can give you a quick answer. Like you said, you
Right.
say no. I guess it's about saying no a lot.
Right.
But you know how you want to live your life.
Right.
And easier, you don't have to wait to get 80. Please don't wait until you get 80. But know that that's the thing that you need to figure out as a mother, raising her children, or if you're in a relationship and there's a parenthood involved. Know that you need to set the boundaries for yourself. Know that you need to, how you want your family life to look.
Absolutely.
The values you want your family, that's important to your family. Ethical, I'm talking ethical, moral, and spiritual. All that needs to be figured out. If you're single, you and your children, if you have a mate, a parent, or the father is in the house, because that's another thing we haven't addressed yet. Families look different these days. And we haven't done, we talk about mother, father. Well, sometimes mother is not necessarily a female. And we haven't addressed that. Mother is to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
Or the parent, we talking about parenthood, two parents together. It could be now.
Mm-hmm.
Two females together, two males together, raising the child. That's not important.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's important is the role that each of these parts, motherhood, parenthood, play. It's all the same. Nurturing, loving, caring. All of those, the three basic things from ever since motherhood and parenthood, when it existed. Even though we're talking about all the complexities of life and juggling back and forth, there were still three things come up to be the most significant thing. And the other things that come into play, since mothers have taken on different roles, they're not just at home nursing the kids and taking care of their daily needs. And that's what has made it so difficult for mothers now, and so challenging and so stressful. Now mothers are taking roles and getting involved in the social development of their children, because they are out in the world, they are working. They have to be. Mothers becoming counselors and advisors, especially since COVID. Mothers became teachers, our parents became teachers. So you have all these different roles that the new mother, the parenthood is putting on them, and it's very, very stressful. Right. It can be handled. But we need to know that this is going, in addition to the basic things we are talking about, these other things are going on. That make families look different.
And Reverend Dolores, the first time I ever heard that expression of what you think of me as, was from Dr. Barbara. And I was like, what? When she first said that, I was like, what? But it resonated with me. And it is so freeing when you accept that, when you can truly take that into your soul, that what other people think of you is none of your business. It allows you to just move forward, because you're not bogged down with, what do they think? What will they think? How are they thinking? You release all that.
The other thing is, as you both have said, we teach people how to treat us. When you develop your boundaries, you teach people how to treat you. I've heard people say, well, they don't respect me. Do you respect yourself? Do you carry yourself in the way that you demand respect? Talk about mother. My mother, that's one of the things she said. You give respect and you demand respect.
Yes.
You give it and you demand it. Do you carry yourself in that manner? Or do you, if you don't know how to say no, then you end up being a doormat. And you've got to draw boundaries. You've got to make lines, but they're based on the fact that you know who you are, and you know when somebody's crossed the line, and you have to let them know that's not acceptable.
Right.
That's not how we're going to interact. Right. So we have to work with those boundaries.
So I was going to ask you guys, but I feel like you already did it, but I'm going to ask you anyway. We're all going through this journey in life, and as we wrap up this conversation, give us, all of us in here, male or female, a little tidbit that we can take with us as we continue in our journey in life. Because all of us are in different phases in life. And I know, like you said, when your kids are one age, you have to be one way, and as they grow, and I'm finding that now that I have preteens, like they're totally different than when they were toddlers. But that's going to change. And I'm changing, you know what I mean? And as I continue to change, I'm having to find a new Chantel, you know? So what is something that you can give all of us, just a little tidbit as we wrap up, to take with us as we are continuing through this journey in life? Because it is a journey, and you all are journeying as well. But as we're transitioning and journeying through life, what can we take with us that will serve us no matter what phase in the journey that we're
Okay,
in.
whether what phase in the journey is motherhood, you in a relationship where you're parenthood, ministerial, you got a ministry, be a model for what you have decided for yourself or what you know for yourself. Be a model for whatever you teach. If you got a ministry, you're a mother, you be a model of what you teach. Model the values, the ethical, the moral, the spiritual values that you, as a person, you model those values. As a mother, you model those values for your children. As a ministry, you be a model of what you preach or teach. And the ministry doesn't necessarily is not for somebody in the pulpit of speaking. I have what I call a health and wellness ministry. I make it a point, and a part of those workshops and things I do is to model. I model what I want the people to experience as far as healthy living, lifestyle. I model the foods when I have the workshops. I model the foods you're supposed to eat. We model how to take care of your emotional and mental self. I attempt myself to model those things. Model, believe it or not, I'm relax and not be so stressful that you guys were talking about. I created a little stress scene for myself here before entering this, and my peers had to remind me, Cooley, you're 80 years old, you must know a whole bunch about life. And I bought this notebook here with all kinds of research and whatever. Who said you don't need it? And truly, I didn't need it. I didn't need this notebook. But anyway, back to just model those things to your children. That would be my decide what's important. Know what's important. You got to find yourself first before you can help somebody else.
Amen.
Know what's important.
Amen.
Don't tell your children to do one thing and you do another. Or, another example, I'm doing health and wellness, and I get it all the time. Sometimes they say, oh, well, we just going to serve some stuff here, got a little white sugar in it. Well, no. White sugar, white flour, and what is the other thing you reminded me of? Dairy. We're trying to learn people that those things are not good for them. So if I go out and I'm eating dairy and all of this, I'm not really modeling what I teach. So I try to model in my life healthy living. And I think sometimes now I feel like I've become a fanatic because I'm having a few difficulties with relationships with people because I'm so into this, But I am truly modeling. I attempt to model what I believe. That's what I might like. You got to be a model.
I would bring it back around to the musical influences in my life. I've become a huge Jean-Baptiste fan. He is everything. I think he's going to be around for a long time because he's so humble and so talented and so brilliant. But on his latest album, World Music Radio, somewhere in there, there's a little tidbit where he tells his listeners, listen, be who you are. Everyone else is already taken. And that's really been my philosophy of life. It sometimes takes you a while to get there, to figure out who you really are. Because from the time we are brought into this world, we're programmed. We're programmed by our genders. We're programmed by our place in our families. We're programmed by our parents. This is what I want you to be. This is what would be best for you. The bottom line is the quicker you figure out who you are, the easier you can move forward in your life. Because otherwise you're fighting a lot of battles. They really aren't even yours.
Yes.
They're not yours. But we take them on because they think, oh, well, Daddy wanted me to be a doctor. And so, that's what I'm working toward. Do you want to be a doctor? Well, a lot of times we don't think about that. So that would be my advice. Just be who you are because everyone else is already taken. That's it.
One of the things that came up as you all were speaking was when I'm looking at the baby over there, parents, as what's the poet? I can't think of his name. I can see, but he tells
Khalil
you
Gibran.
children are not your own.
Khalil Gibran.
Yeah, Gibran. Okay, don't give them your thoughts. I've seen a lot of parents, as you just mentioned, parents trying to tell the children what they should be and what they should do. Give them the space and ability to choose for themselves. Their mind, you don't know what that message they're getting from Spirit is. And it's not the message you have. Right. Don't give them your dreams. Let them dream their own dreams and support them in those dreams. And as far as all of us, no matter what age you are, love yourself. Mm-hmm. Love yourself. Kind of piggybacking on Reverend Cheryl, love who you are. Mm-hmm. You're a divine, unique creation. There's no one in the universe like you. Right. You're a designer special made by God. Nobody can duplicate you. There's no knockoff of you. There's only one of you. Don't try to be like anybody else. Don't try to make anyone like you. And love who you are. Loving yourself, I've realized over all these years of ministry, is the hardest thing for people to do. Oh, you'll tell me you love this one, you love that one. No, you don't, baby. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. Amen. Learn to love yourself and appreciate the individual that you are and how special you are. No matter what your life experiences have brought you through, you're still special. You're still loved by God. No one can take that away from you. No one can separate you from that. But love yourself. There's something that transforms inside of you once you love yourself. And it just shows up in a way that you're not moved. As I said, what people think of you, you're not moved by anybody else. You're not upset with what you see happening. You know the truth of your being. You know you've chosen your values, as Dr. Josephine said. So you know where you're going and what you're going to do. And if you're in communication with God, God first, you second, guess what? Everything is going to be in divine order.
All is well.
And all is well.
Well, let's give these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful women a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause. I wish we had a whole nother hour because we could probably go into a whole lot of other topics. So we would love to have y'all back. I'm just going to say it right now. Because there's some things that we probably didn't get to ask you just because of time. But thank you. Thank you for sharing the knowledge, the experiences. I think we all can take something from this conversation and apply it in our everyday lives. So I thank you, each of you, for taking this time out on this Mother's Day to come and speak with us. So now, let's move on to the business. We have some great things coming up at Living Truth 365. Next Sunday, we will have our very own Dr. Rocco will be here with us next Sunday at 10 o'clock or at 11 o'clock. So please come by and join us. We've heard Dr. Josephine talk about Dr. Rocco and studying with him. So obviously he has some knowledge to share. So come and hear what he has and hear him drop his knowledge on us about the ear.
I just want to tell you that when I graduated and was ordained, it was Rocco that put my scroll on me.
Okay.
And that was confirmation for me.
Absolutely.
I was like, well, I may not know what I'm doing or how I'm going to get there, but I have Dr. Barbara, who has decreed me be ordained, and then I have Rocco, who put my scrolls on, so obviously something is going on here. I just have to catch up.
You just got to move in the flow of it. Yeah. Stop denying it, right?
Exactly.
So now it's also the part in the time in our service to give. We want to continue the circulation of giving and receiving, so get yourself in the flow of it as we are going to give our tithes back to Living Truth 365. And there are several ways that you can give. You can either do it by setting up Tidely, which is a one-time setup, and you can type text to the number on the screen, 470-243-2191, and wait for a reply. Or, as a lot of us have, Cash App.
Cash App.
Yes, Cash App. At $LT365. We also have some envelopes for those who may need it. Just raise your hand if you need an envelope. And we are also doing our sustainable members. And our sustainable memberships can give through Zelle. And here's the information on how to give to set up to become a sustainable member. You can go through Zelle and you just set it up at livingtruth365@gmail, create a recurring payments, and this is all happening through your bank. So I'll give you a few moments to get your tithe together.
So Reverend Chantel?
Yes, sir.
They also can just make one-offs through Zelle also. They don't necessarily have to use that sustainable giving.
Okay. So the Zelle can also be used for one-time giving. You don't have to use it for reoccurring giving if you use Zelle. And Zelle is mostly through your bank account. So I'll give you all a few moments as I get mine together. And we are going to take our affirmation. Wait just a few moments because I don't see everybody's face. Hold on. And let's take our affirmation 3 times. There is no lack or limitation. There is only infinite abundance. And through my giving, I tap into the infinite flow, and I am one with it. There is no lack or limitation. There is only infinite abundance. And through my giving, I tap into the infinite flow, and I am one with it. There is no lack or limitation. There is only infinite abundance. And through my giving, I tap into the infinite flow, and I am one with it. I like that energy. Now let's do this last one 3 times with the same energy. I am tapping infinite prosperity and sharing. I am tapping infinite prosperity and sharing. I am tapping infinite prosperity and sharing. And so it is. It was echoing and doing all of that at the same time. Bouncing and so I love that. Hey, let's keep that going. Prosperity is coming. Well, no, prosperity is here. It is here. We are aligning with this.
Every day and every way.
Yes. So we also have our Moments in Meditation, which is every Thursday starting at 7 p.m. with our very own Reverend Drea. So please join us via Zoom. You don't have to leave your home. You can stay in the comfort of your home and really find some time to collect consciously with like minds in meditation. And she also has some lessons for you when you come. So it's not just about meditation. You get to learn some things too. And then we have our Nora Foundation, which is our very own Dr. Rocco. You can either attend the Aramaic School of Light, which is the second Saturday of each month from 1 to 3, and it's $30 per class for that class. Or each Wednesday night, he has online classes from 7 to 8 p.m. And that's just for a love offering. So for more information, you can reach out to Nora Foundation at mail.com or by calling the numbers listed. We are still having our Friday breakthrough barrier calls. So make sure you take the time at 7 a.m. to join us on Fridays. Not a long call, just to recharge, to get you back on track if you need to ask anything, or just be in fellowship with us. So give us a call or call into our line at 7 a.m. on Fridays. And the number is 712-775-8969 and the access code 936892. So please make sure you join us. It's not a long time. You're just on there for about 15 minutes and then you're off. But it's a great way to begin your Friday as well as go into the weekend. Our true trekkers, they still out there trekking, y'all. So if you have not been on one of their treks, which I have not because my kids have had lots of things going on, but I'm going to try to make this one. They are going to go to Island Fort Unit in the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Park. And that's going to be next Saturday at 9 a.m. And the weather's getting nice. It's not too hot yet. It's still kind of cool and breezy. And they go out early enough where it's not too hot anyway. So I encourage you to come on this spiritual trek with our truth trekkers, because they are consistent with it. And they look like they have a lot of fun. Every time I would see the post, I'm like, man, I wish I could be there. So we have a meeting coming up for all of our Breaking Barriers members, which is probably everybody in here, right? Yep, everybody in here. So we expect to see you on June 1st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is going to be, we're going to check in on what we got going on. We're halfway through the year. Can y'all believe we almost halfway through the year?
No.
Like, as I say that, I'm like, ooh, we were just talking about that. Like, we almost halfway through the year. So this is our check-in. This is our time to get together to see where we're at. We're breaking our barriers, as well as moving forward the second half of the year of what we need to continue to work on to break through our barriers. Because remember, it's up to you. Like, I think you heard all of them say, the work is actually something we have to do. You know, as ministers, I like what you were saying, that the impression, that's why I didn't want to go into ministry either. And God called me to it too. And I was like, no.
Expectation.
Yeah, the expectation and the
preconceived
of you can save me. And it's like, I'm still trying to save myself.
Right.
But we walk in this.
Go through that.
Oh, we all go through that? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I'm not ready.
Are you sure?
Okay. So that's very good confirmation for me, because it was really that same conversation for me as well. Like, really?
It's heavy. It's heavy being a minister. It ain't no lightweight thing.
Gotta get you outside.
Yeah, like if you ain't outside and if you ain't drinking water, like that's like if you got other problems in your life, like you can't really, it starts there. Like those are human needs that we all need to be doing, being outside, drinking water. So like if you can't pay your bills, it's like you ain't drinking water or outside. So like how can you even begin to think about paying your bills?
That sounds like some John Baptiste.
You ain't drinking water or being outside. Break it to the simplest. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Reverend Jeremy Hill. I look forward to putting that title on you very soon. So we're also releasing what we no longer need, still here at Living Truth 365. So please continue to donate your cell phones, your tablets, your laptops. We are donating these things to a women's shelter. So we are continuing to collect these things throughout the year. So we ask that you look through your stuff that you're not using anymore, those electronics that still work, but just sitting in your closet. Or those no, I'm not even on the eyeglasses. Let me go to the eyeglasses. Or the eyeglasses that you don't wear because your prescription has changed and you can't wear them anymore, but they sit in your drawer because I don't know why we keep them in there. I keep them in my drawer. But bring them in. Let them serve and have a purpose for someone else who that can actually use them versus just collecting junk in your drawer. And cluttering, because if you make more space, guess what? More things are going to come to you. So clear out that space, clear out those old eyeglasses, laptops, tablets, cell phones, all of those things we collect over years because we're buying the new model of it, but then we don't know what the heck to do with the old model. We'll bring the old model in here so we can donate it to a women's shelter where it can actually get used. So we are having a change that is starting in June. Services will be on the first and third Sundays only in person, correct? Yes, I am correct with that. Starting in June, which is actually next month, right? Oh, wow, this year, just like in 2 weeks. Yes, May is done. So starting next month, we are shifting how Living Truth is giving our services. So mark your calendars. You only got to come here twice, but I expect to see y'all in here the first and third Sundays and bringing some more people and some more friends and some more people that need to hear this truth. Get your reppin' tea. We have a reppin' tea here. Come on, Reverend Terry, I'm going to make you walk the runway. Come on down. And he is repping peace today. Because he said, he's normally around a whole bunch of women. But he said, because today is Mother's Day, He gonna wear the peace one. But I think we were pretty peaceful. We didn't give him too much. But get your reppin' tee. Represent Truth at Kafani Studios at Etsy.com. Or you can get your Breaking Barrier merch. I have one of mine on today, Breaking Barrier. Right, barrier free. And that you also can get at Etsy at KafiniStudios.com. So I encourage you all to get either your merch, your Breaking Barrier merch, your reppin' merch, just so you can represent truth as you're out. Because actually what it will do is people will start looking at your shirt and then they'll ask you something about it. And then you have to say something about it. And then you can say, hey, go to Etsy at KafiniStudios.com and get your own, or come to Living Truth. That's how we get the conversation and the word out there. And we are online, y'all. Visit us at livingtruth365.org for more information, for updates coming out at 365. If you're out and about with your reppin' shirt or your Breaking Barrier and people are like, where you got that? Send them to our website. Oh, that sounded like my voice. So as we wrap up, I just want to say, again, happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers in here. Happy Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day, ma'am. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, I received that. Happy Mother's Day to all of our moms, and to all of our people who may not be biological moms. Moms come in many flavors, many different ways. So even if you haven't birthed a child, there are a lot of mothers here.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have that official title of mother, I am saying happy Mother's Day to you as well, because I know that you are a mother to someone in your life. So we are going to wrap it up with our Breaking Barriers affirmation. I'm going to make everybody stand. Jeremy, you got something? What? Oh, I wasn't going to do that right now, but hold on. But come on, go ahead. Come on. We have some gifts for our mothers.
Hey. Well, yeah, we can all stand up.
Yeah. So for our guests, we have some beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, because I couldn't hold those.
I
know, look, pretty flowers.
Keeping this alive.
Absolutely. I know.
Go back.
I'm going to keep this alive. Beautiful.
Yes, keep it.
Thank you.
This is for.
I was going to say, are the instructions on here? Because this looks.
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, I get one. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Is this like the other thing we got that you can't kill it because
email. Thank you.
I wasn't expecting that for me, but thank you. I appreciate y'all. So we are going to take our Breaking Barrier affirmation. I'm going to make it. Y'all got to stand with us. Come on. Stand on up. Jeremy got us standing. And let's repeat our affirmation with some energy because we're breaking through these barriers 3 times. There are no barriers in God. Therefore, there can be no barriers in me. There are no barriers in God. Therefore, there can be no barriers in me. There are no barriers in God. Therefore, there can be no barriers in me. And so it is. And for all of those who are here today, we have a gift for you in the back. We have a seed. I want you to take a moment to read the information that is in front of the seed before